You know him, we all know him. You'd have to be living under a rock not to know who this man is. Of course, I'm talking about the one and only Michael Jackson, the king of pop, the god of all performers in the music industry, the original Disney adult. Michael Jackson's new movie, Michael, has finally hit the big screen after a decade and a half of his unfortunate passing. Which kind of makes me wonder, we already know this guy's story from all of his history with his familial abuse from his father Joe, leading to his ultimate success as a performer, building a fan base all around the world that literally makes him a god who walks and moonwalks on the earth. Why, after so much of his history being spilled all throughout the public press, are we now getting a biopic this year as opposed to, well, any time of his life and even after his life? Why now all of a sudden are we getting this biopic? We could have had this like years ago in a way. Well, that got me curious, and I decided to delve a little deep into that. So in this article called Michael, Why It Took Years to Bring Michael Jackson's Story to Life, kind of goes into detail as to why it took so long for this movie to come out. And as I look into this article, it turns out there are 6 reasons why this film is only coming out just now. So let's go into that for a second. So the first reason is Michael Jackson himself feared telling the story. There's a quote here that says, "There's so little privacy in my life that concealing it a little bit of me is a way to give myself a break." And considering all the abuse he went through when he was performing in the Jackson 5, basically by force by his own father Joe, kind of understands why he wouldn't want this to come out and he wants to hide away from the public, but also trying to be, the amazing performer that he is. And for a long time, that's why he didn't want a biopic of himself, because he wanted to maintain his privacy. Even after he died in 2009, of course, all those issues of making this film only made things even more complicated, especially since the family was hesitant about that as well, because now they won't get that privacy after mourning his death, even now before this movie even came out. It's crazy how much we still think about this guy. Now, the second reason is, during his life, Hollywood was reluctant to make movies with Jackson. He had already played the Scarecrow in 1978's The Wiz, and in 1986 Captain EO, which was also shown in Disney parks. But despite all that work that went into those films, many studios didn't really want to work with him, and they were pretty awful about it. And here's a quote from a guy named Howard Rosenman, who said, "How can you put a face on screen 60 feet high with the nose he had and that skin? He looked like Phantom of the Opera," which is very mean. I understand he went through a lot of surgical procedures to look like Peter Pan, but I don't think that's worth roasting him over. The third reason is, after Jackson's death, his estate was swamped with other projects. But the first film that came out after he died was This Is It, which was a documentary about his preparation for his planned final concert tour within the year that he died. Most of his projects were done at the estate, Neverland, and it only made things more complicated after he died, because the only reason why he did any of these projects there because he wanted to maintain his privacy, as previously said in reason 1. Now let's move on to reason 4, which was leaving Neverland made filmmakers wary of working with Jackson's estate. So if you've seen the documentary that came out in 2019, you can understand why people didn't want to work with this guy. And his death, it only made things more complicated. Like I said, if you're lucky enough to see the documentary, you can't really find it anymore. It's not on HBO. You can't find it on the internet anywhere. Maybe you'll find it if you're lucky to get a copy of it, maybe. But for the most part, it's pretty much non-existent. The fifth reason is, a long ago settlement with Jackson's first accuser forced Michael into an 11th hour edit. So this refers to the allegations in 1993 of Jackson's child sexual abuse victim, Jordan Chandler, when he was 13 years old. While the allegations and the accusations were there, because of Michael Jackson's popularity, people were always kind of split whether the allegations were really true, just because to condemn him altogether, or if someone was bullshitting. It's not really said as to whether or not he was guilty of anything, but while they tried to incorporate that into this film, they couldn't legally get that moment into the film because Chandler wouldn't allow it. So therefore, it's not included into the film, nor is it included into the second part, if it ever comes out. I'm not sure how well it's going to do in the box office, so I guess we'll find out soon. That's what caused them to do last minute revisions, which cost them up to 10 to 15 million in terms of the budget. And the sixth reason is the estate actually burned down during the Palisades fires, which caused them to not even go through the film at all and delay it even further. That was in the course of like between 2019 to now. So even after all those delays and all those issues that went into making the production and all the time we had to wait for this film to come out, now we ask the honest question. Was it actually all worth the wait for this biopic? In my opinion, despite what the Rotten Tomatoes score says, I would think so. Even though we already know this man's story, we know everything that goes into this production. We pretty much know exactly like what this man stands for in terms of peace, kindness, the same peace and kindness that he never got from his own father and from the abuse that he got throughout his childhood. Wants to bring that same peace among the world is shown very gracefully in this film, as well as his performance from Michael Jackson's nephew Jafar when he puts it down in his performance. And I really respect his commitment to the role. Maybe the other actors do a good job as well. Production-wise, it looks pretty good. I'm very unclear as to how it went down so badly with the Rotten Tomatoes score. It's probably one of the few times I don't really agree with it. I might be wrong. Maybe I'm just an idiot and I'm just really a big defender for this icon of a performer, but I don't know. Maybe I just feel different about it. I think maybe it's because if you like Michael Jackson as just a performer and you're like the biggest fan among, well, pretty much everyone in this world, it's hard to really get on the side of that, to think that you would think otherwise. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. It's only a first part of a two-parter, so I mean, if it doesn't completely flop because of the Rotten Tomatoes score and people just ultimately don't end up watching it, maybe there won't be a part two. I'm not really sure what's going to happen. But at the same time, it's hard for me to completely hate on this film just because of the score, and I don't think it's worth hating on. Again, if you're a big Michael Jackson fan like myself, you'll probably like this movie just fine as it is. And you'll probably like part two just as much. I guess that's all I gotta say about all that. If you haven't watched this movie, don't let the Rotten Tomatoes score stop you.